Many idealists use the example of dreams as a mere analogy to help others understand idealism. In this video, I'm going to argue that life is not merely like a dream, but that life really is a dream. Dr. Stephen LaBerge, a researcher from Stanford University, is a pioneer and leading expert in the scientific study of dreams. Based on decades of research, Dr. LaBerge gives this definition of dreaming.
Dreaming is perception unconstrained by sensory input, and vice versa. Perception is dreaming constrained by sensory input.
If dreaming is perception, and while awake we are perceiving, then this leads to an unexpected implication.
So perception and dreaming are the same process under two different conditions, whether the sensory input is predominant or not. But it's the same thing, so this is a dream.
To understand why Dr. LaBerge says we're dreaming, we need to understand what is meant by difference in kind versus difference in degree. The term kind refers to what something is, or in other words, the essence or nature of an entity. So if there's a difference in kind, then that means there is a qualitative distinction in what A is as opposed to not A, and this is expressed as a binary. So A and not A are two different things, or two different types of things. This is how the difference between dreams and waking life are often presented. We are told that if you perceive while asleep, you're in a dream, but if you perceive while you're awake, you're not in a dream. Oftentimes, we are also told that waking life is real, and the dream is not real, and this is a difference in kind. In contrast, if there is merely a difference in degree, then there is no difference in terms of what something is, because there is merely a difference in the quantity or magnitude of that something. So if there is no difference in kind, then A and B are not two different things, or two different types of things. A and B exist on a continuum, and there is no distinction in terms of what they are. There is only more or less of what they are, and this is a difference in degree.
The stuff of dreams, the visual stuff, for example, I see an image of people in a room that I seem to be in, is the same kind of image, is the same kind of stuff as the stuff of waking or dream consciousness. There's all a continuity.
According to Dr. LaBerge, dreams and waking life exist on a continuum and are not different in kind, but rather they are the same in kind. So what waking life is the same as what a dream is. In other words, the essence or nature of waking life is identical to the essence or nature of a dream. So whether we are awake or asleep, we are still dreaming either way. It's just that while asleep, you are in your own dream, and while awake, you're in a shared dream. Though many may be biased towards the binary paradigm, considerable scientific evidence supports the continuum paradigm. Dr. Stephen LaBerge, along with several other notable scientists, performed an exploratory study entitled Similarities and Differences Between Dreaming and Waking Cognition. In this study, 88 dreamers completed questionnaires assessing the cognitive, metacognitive, and emotional qualities of recent waking and dreaming experiences. The researchers reported the present findings suggest that dreaming cognition is more similar to waking cognition than previously assumed, and that the differences between dreaming and waking cognition are more quantitative than qualitative. They also note that none of the measured features was absent or infrequent in reports of either dreaming or waking experiences, end quote. So in terms of cognition, the difference between waking and dreaming is in degree rather than kind. All cognitive faculties that are in waking are also in dreaming. There's just more or less of the measured features in dreaming and waking. This study was replicated and expanded upon by Dr. LaBerge, as written in the paper, Dreaming and Waking, Similarities and Differences Revisited. In two studies, They test the alternative hypothesis that the dreaming mind is highly similar to the waking mind. The results indicated that reported dreaming and waking experiences are surprisingly similar in their cognitive and sensory qualities. They go on further to state that studies provide compelling evidence that lucid dreaming consciousness can be as volitional and rational as waking consciousness, and that non-lucid dreaming often includes rational thinking and reflective awareness. Considerable evidence, then, supports the alternative view that dreaming is continuous with waking. As other researchers elaborate, not only are the cognitive processes involved in dream production the same throughout the night, irrespective of the physiological characteristics of the various sleep stages, but they also seem to be the same as those operative in waking.
And we see that essentially every sensory element that we find in the waking state is also present in dreams. They're present in similar amounts too. So it's not that there are features that dreams just don't have. Everything that the waking state consciousness has, so do dreams have. That's not just the sensory dimensions, it also includes higher cognitive and emotional, metacognitive. So we got choice, emotion, public, self-consciousness, reflection on events, sudden attention, all of these things, same model exactly, asking people in 2 cases to report how often it happens. So that means that for dreams, in which we're not supposed to have anything like self-reflection and no focused attention, actually have in 60 or 50% of the cases, people said yes, right? So there is much more complexity, detail, and realism, as it were, going on in dreams.
This unity of waking and dreaming has long been recognized by idealists, such as Arthur Schopenhauer, who says, "Thus, on one side, at least, the world must be recognized as akin to dreams, and indeed to be classified along with them. For the same function of the brain, which, during sleep, conjures up before us a completely objective, perceptible, and even palpable world, must have just as large a share in the presentation of the objective world of waking life. Both worlds, although different as regards their matter, are yet clearly molded in the one form." Schopenhauer even goes as far to say that our experiences when asleep are what he calls short dreams, and the experience when awake is what he calls the long dream. So whether one is asleep or awake, one still lives in a dream. It's just a matter of whether one is in a short dream or the long dream. Since there is only a difference in degree, Schopenhauer concludes there is no distinct difference in their nature, and we are forced to concede to the poets that life is a long dream. He goes on to say that we need not be ashamed to confess that life is a dream, as it has been recognized and spoken of by many great men. He says the most worthily of these great men stands Shakespeare, who he quotes as saying, "We are such stuff as dreams are made on, and our little life is rounded with a sleep." I want to say that we're here in a case where we're saying perceiving is dreaming true, in the sense that what we're dreaming right now is related to a part of reality called physical reality. Whereas dreaming, that thing that happens asleep at night and so on, is perceiving free, meaning independent of constraints. So we have the 2 different cases, one here where we can interact in a shared dream, and while asleep in bed where we can explore what life would be like if there were no one but ourselves. If a dream implies a dreamer, then that means what we call waking life is unconstrained experience in the mind of a single fundamental subject, known as the dreamer. Just as the objects in your own dreams are an experience or perception within your own mind, so are the objects in waking life within the fundamental mind. And just as the people in your own dreams are parts or aspects within yourself, so are the people in waking life within the absolute self. This description of reality is identical to a monistic form of idealism, in which existence is exhaustively mental or experiential in its essence. F.C.S. Schiller, a doctor of science from Oxford, was a professor at University of Southern California and a renowned idealist in the early 20th century. At the end of his book, Studies in Humanism, Schiller concludes, "Do not dreams yield the simplest and most cogent of all pleas for idealism? Do they not afford a brilliant vindication to the idealist's contention that the whole world's of vast complexity may be subjective in their origin, and that their seeming reality is no sufficient warrant for their extramental nature? We seem to derive, therefore, from the empirical but incontestable fact of dreaming, a striking confirmation of the original idealist assertion." Under this original view of idealism, someone known as the dreamer is the ultimate foundation of reality, and everything else that exists is included or absorbed in the dreamer. But if waking life is not my dream, and it's not your dream, then neither of us are the dreamer, which means we are left with an inevitable question.
And then she said the ancient phrase.
We're like the dreamer. Dreams, and then lives inside the dream.
We are like the dreamer who dreams, and then lives inside the dream. I told her I understood. And then she said,
But who is the dreamer?
but who is the dreamer?
Whoever this dreamer is, there's a few things we can know about them. The dreamer is a single subject who is unconstrained and therefore perceives freely, just as a lucid dreamer does. This means whoever the dreamer is, they are capable of creating objects and even an entire universe simply by imagining or willing them to be, just as you're capable of doing in your own lucid dreams. So, if this subject is uncreated and is the ultimate reality, and is therefore the foundation of everything, including all power, all knowledge, all goodness, and all created beings, then this dreamer is indistinguishable from who we traditionally identify as God.
Who do you think that is there?
Damn! I hadn't remembered that. Now this is really something interesting to think about.
Yes.
F.C.S. Schiller explains the implications of this dream view of idealism. The fact of dream experience, in principle, involves an immense extension of the possibilities of existence. It supplies a concrete, easy, and indisputable illustration of how to understand the notion of other worlds that are really other, in the manner of a transition from one world to another. It shows us that paradise cannot be found by traveling north, south, east, or west, however far. That is in vain to search the satellites for more resplendent suns for more harmonious conditions of existence. We must pass out of our real space altogether, even as we pass out of a dream space on awaking. In short, we may confidently claim that to pass from a world of lower into one of higher reality would be like waking from an evil dream. To pass from a higher into a lower world would be like lapsing into nightmare. More than this, dream experience suggests a definite doubt of the ultimateness of our present waking life, and a definite possibility of worlds of higher reality, heavens, related to our present waking life, just as the latter is to dream life. Thus, a thought which religion long ago divined, dimly and with incrustations of mythopoeic fancy, philosophy expounds as a reasoned and reasonable possibility, and urges science to verify an actual fact. And already this unverified conception may sanction the consoling hope that of the evil and irrationality that oppress us not a little may be due to our not yet having found a way to dissipate the spell of a cosmic nightmare which besets us. I will explain these implications in more detail in another video, but in short, what I think Schiller is getting at is that paradise or heaven is not a place one goes to, it is a state of consciousness one lives in. Lucid dreaming is known to be a treatment for nightmares, since lucidity allows one to alter the storyline during the nightmare itself. Perhaps similar techniques that are used in lucid dream therapy can be applied in waking life to alleviate what Schiller calls a cosmic nightmare.
Dreaming and expectation are very tightly connected. You can see that how well that works with the attitude you have in a lucid dream facing a nightmarish figure. You can see how immediately it changes. The moment that you change your heart, the way you look at it, they stop being hostile. It's like it's a place where Christianity actually works. That your friends become, or your enemies become your friends the moment you love them.
Before I conclude, I will answer a few objections. Some might argue that holding dreaming and waking as continuous is committing the continuum fallacy. The fallacy arises when one argues that two states or conditions cannot be considered distinct, or do not exist at all, because between them there exists a continuum of states. While it does appear to be paradoxical for there to be a continuum of states, such as lucid dreaming in a binary paradigm, the point I'm making does not rely on appealing to an in-between state for there to be a continuum. What's being said is that the difference in waking and dreaming are quantitative rather than qualitative, and we have not sufficiently distinguished waking and dreaming as being distinct in kind. All states of consciousness, including sense experiences, are present in dreams just as they are in waking life. There are merely more or less of those experiences. Others might object that holding life to be a dream means we and the entire universe are imaginary, and since the contents of the imagination are unreal, then that would mean we and the universe are fictional and do not really exist. My answer to this objection begins with the distinction between what is imaginary versus experiential. When you merely imagine something, you don't see, touch, or feel something, you're only having a thought or an idea of that something, like characters in a novel. When you experience something, you do see, touch, and feel something, like with people in waking life. On its face, a dream is experiential, just like waking life, rather than being imaginary. Phenomenological reports of dreams are rich in experience that are also realistic in their qualities and are indistinguishable from the experiences of waking life. There is also experimental evidence that supports these reports. In a study by Dr. LaBerge and other researchers, smooth tracking of visual targets distinguishes lucid REM sleep dreaming and waking perception from imagination. When a subject is awake and tracking the movement of an object with their eyes in a circular motion, the pattern of the eye movement is smooth and round, as seen on the left. When a subject imagines an object moving in a circular motion and they track that imaginary object with their eyes, the pattern of the eye movement is saccadic or jagged, which is not smooth, as seen on the right. If dreams were imaginary rather than experiential, then you would expect the pattern of the eye movement of a dreamer tracking an object to be saccadic, like on the right. However, the pattern in dreams appears to be smooth and resembles waking perception far more than it does imagination. So a dream is experiential rather than imaginary. A final objection I will address has to do with what's called reality checks. A reality check is said to be a method of telling whether one is in a dream or in real life by looking for dream signs or bizarre dreamlike experiences that are said to not occur in waking life. So if waking life passes the reality check and there are no bizarre dreamlike experiences, then that means waking life is not a dream. My answer to someone who makes this objection is that these so-called reality checks do not prove you're not in a dream. At the very least, they would only prove that this waking life is not your dream. In your dream, you can perceive freely without constraint, and so you can experience anything or even make yourself fly just by thinking about it. While awake, you are dreaming true, so your experiences are constrained by the environment. You may not be able to make yourself fly just by thinking while awake, or have bizarre experiences, but that doesn't mean you don't live in a dream. All it means is that you're currently not in your own dream right now. In conclusion, I am sympathetic to the idealists who hold that life is merely like a dream, rather than actually being a dream. Holding the universe as merely like a dream within a single fundamental mind is very helpful for understanding idealism and getting various points across. However, I think we have good reasons to side with the poets, and so we should believe that life is a dream.